This is a full story. Puppy wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. During the summer vacation, I rented a virtual boyfriend. According to my request, his basic setting was a cold and aloof academic genius. I was aggressive, shamelessly flirting with him every day. Under my training, he gradually became the perfect boyfriend, sweet and loving for a month. When graduate school started, I decided to end this virtual romance. I sent STD and then directly blocked him. Not long after the start of the school year, at a group dinner, the tutor asked about our romantic status. I shyly smiled and said, "Currently still single." The aloof senior brother looked at me and smiled eerily. "Junior sister, you and I are quite alike. Senior brother is also single? Quite the coincidence. I was just unsubscribed by someone. I rented a virtual boyfriend online. But now, I regret it a little, because I found that I might actually be falling for him. According to my initial request, the virtual boyfriend was set to be a cold and aloof academic genius who kept people at a distance. And what I liked most was the sense of achievement from gradually breaking down this high and mighty figure. Under my relentless pursuit, this icy mountain finally started to melt. A month ago, I had shaped him into the perfect boyfriend in my eyes. Not overly clingy but possessive of you. He would get jealous, but not unreasonable. He spoke without being greasy but could always hit the right note with you. He had his own principles but was willing to bend them to accommodate you as much as possible. Occasionally, he would even abandon his principles for you. Who could not love such a person? The key was that this virtual boyfriend sometimes even sent me voice messages. His godlike voice made me, a voice addict, unable to resist. We were sweetly affectionate for almost a month, and when I suddenly realized I was often smiling foolishly at my phone, alarm bells went off in my heart. I seemed to have really fallen for this virtual boyfriend. This made me anxious. Rationality told me I was about to fall into this virtual romance. And the other side was just a stream of data assembled according to my preferences. I needed to cut my losses in time. Though reluctant, my rationality won over my emotions. I opened our chat window and sent STD. When I originally subscribed, the customer service said that sending STD would terminate the service. Just as I was about to put down my phone, a message came through from him. "What does this mean? Baby, are you feeling down today? Damn, it's just a cunning tactic by the operators to retain me and make me continue paying." I gritted my teeth and blocked him. Phew, that's better. My life finally returned to normal. A few days later, I reported to a university and would be spending the next 3 years here for my graduate studies. The research group's atmosphere was great, and the senior brothers and sisters were very friendly. The tutor was not very old and occasionally chatted with the students, talking about daily life. Every year during the start of the school season, almost every research group has a dinner for a sense of ceremony. But our group was still unresponsive. It wasn't that I was craving the food, just very curious. I asked a second-year senior sister and she sighed. "We do have one, but this year our senior brother is still away attending an academic conference and hasn't returned. The tutor plans to wait until he comes back to have the dinner." I nodded in understanding. Our group's senior brother, Rocky, is a legend at a university's School of Mathematical Sciences. A math genius, super academic, and aloof campus heartthrob, all these titles piled up on one person. I had seen his name on the school's online forum at least 10 times before school even started. To be honest, I was quite eager to see him in person. Senior brother Rocky didn't have to go. The senior sister suddenly said, but he seemed to be in a bad mood those days, not talking to anyone and full of negative energy. The tutor let him attend the academic conference to get away and clear his mind. When was that? My curiosity was burning. It seems it was just before you reported. The tutor didn't give us first-year graduate students any complicated tasks. He only asked us to review literature first. Whenever I encountered obscure definitions of theorems in the literature, I couldn't help but think of my virtual boyfriend. Though it eroded my mental state, he was really smart. The academic persona was intact. When I sent him questions I didn't understand, he could quickly explain them to me. If I still didn't understand, he would send voice messages to explain carefully. Far better than other learning software. Sometimes, when I lost patience and started to talk nonsense, "I don't want to study knowledge anymore. I want to learn positions with you." On the other side, the typing indicator blinked on and off. After a while, he sent a message. "Stop joking. Teasing a serious person was really stimulating." And I was the kind of person who was meek in reality, but turned into a rogue online. "Hubby, with such profound knowledge, could you be naturally talented and exceptional in bed too?" This time, the other side was silent for even longer. Just as I was about to fall asleep, he finally sent a message. "You can verify it yourself." How do I verify that? Even AI is playing tricks on me. I gave up on teasing him and continued struggling with the math theorems. 15th day away from my virtual boyfriend, thinking of him. 25th day away from my virtual boyfriend, I finally attended my research group dinner. With first, second, and third year students gathered, I was a bit nervous. The tutor had booked a large private room. With our group being so many, it was just right for 13 people. The senior sister sitting to my left whispered to me, "The senior brother is back and he's talking with the tutor outside right now." I nodded and sipped my water in silence. Not long after, the door to the private room was pushed open. The tutor walked in with a tall, handsome guy right behind him. I clutched my water glass and slightly widened my eyes. So handsome, eyes are eyes, nose is nose. The slightly raised peach blossom eyes were not inviting and carried a sense of cold aloofness. I stared at him a bit absent-mindedly. According to my fantasy of the virtual boyfriend, he should look like the senior brother. A fellow student next to me tugged at my sleeve, and I quickly stood up to greet everyone with a smile. "Hello, teacher, senior brother." The teacher waved his hand and had us sit down. Rocky looked around and his gaze paused on my face for a moment. He walked over to me and said to the guy next to me, "Hello, can I switch seats with you? There's a draft over there and I've caught a cold, so I can't stand the wind." The guy was momentarily stunned but immediately stood up. "Of course, senior brother, please sit." "Thank you." Once everyone was seated, I sat stiffly, not daring to move. The senior brother's voice was really pleasant and strangely familiar. I wanted to turn and look, but I restrained myself. The tutor was humorous and had started to liven up the atmosphere. He had us do a simple self-introduction. Everyone gradually relaxed. I wasn't very extroverted, so I could only grip my cup and slowly drink water while listening to them chatting and laughing. Soon, the water was gone. Before I could find the water jug, a long hand reached over and took my cup. Rocky refilled the cup and handed it back to me. I accepted it with surprise and thanked him softly. "Thank you, senior brother." Rocky glanced at me and casually asked, "Junior sister, you don't talk much, do you?" I smiled and said, "I'm a bit socially anxious." "Socially anxious?" Rocky repeated these words, then suddenly laughed mysteriously. I looked at him. The senior brother seemed a bit strange. The conversation at the table was lively. They talked about a senior who just got married this year, and the topic gradually shifted to our romantic lives. When the tutor asked me, I awkwardly smiled and said, "I don't have a partner, still single." As soon as I finished speaking, I felt Rocky's gaze on me. The presence was so strong it was hard to ignore. I felt a bit uneasy and heard the tutor's voice. "So among us, only you and Rocky are single. He's about to graduate, and it's hard for him to find a partner, but you still have time. If you meet someone suitable, you can try getting to know them." Hearing this, I couldn't help but look at Rocky. He was also looking at me. I awkwardly smiled. I didn't expect senior brother to still be single. Such a prodigy, surely he has countless admirers. That he's single? It doesn't make sense. Rocky said, "Yes, single, just recently unsubscribed by someone." Unsubscribed? Is this a new term for breaking up? I don't quite understand, but I don't want to pry into someone else's romantic life. I could only nod vaguely. But then the tutor suddenly thought of something. "By the way, Haley, you should be quite familiar with senior brother Rocky by now, right? When you told me you were interested in graph theory, especially graph energy-related problems, I asked Rocky to add you. He just published a paper last year, so if you have any questions, you can ask him." I was stunned. When did this happen? I don't remember. Is senior brother Rocky involved in some covert operation too? I quickly thought of a way to rescue the situation. "Yes," he added me. "Senior brother is very patient and explains problems in detail. I really appreciate him." Since that's the case, Rocky's tone was strange, carrying a hint of grievance. Could junior sister take me off the blacklist? I was nervously drinking water and almost spat out the tea when I heard this. Rocky kindly handed me a tissue. I took the tissue, wiped my mouth haphazardly, and hurriedly stood up. "Teacher, senior brothers and sisters, you eat first. I need to use the restroom." I rushed into the restroom and frantically searched through my phone. WeChat blacklist? I don't remember adding senior brother to the blacklist. Wait, I don't remember adding him at all. And recently, the only one I had blacklisted was my virtual boyfriend. I blinked and cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Even though I kept telling myself it couldn't be, I tremblingly removed the virtual boyfriend from the blacklist. Then I carefully sent a question mark message. When the typing indicator appeared, I nearly had a heart attack. Soon, a message came through. "Junior sister, why aren't you back yet? Don't keep the teacher waiting." The dinner felt like a thorny seat, a stinging back, a choking sensation in my throat. If I had known it would turn out like this, I would never have come. After the meal, Rocky and I wordlessly bid farewell to the tutor and left separately, planning to meet at the next intersection. We walked all the way to the sports field without saying a word. My mind kept replaying our initial chat when I first added him. Hello, junior sister. Hi, hubby. Just call me senior brother. Okay, hubby senior brother. Does junior sister have any questions for me? Do you know what time it is now? 8 o'clock. No, it's the start of our love. I stopped in my tracks, and Rocky looked puzzled, turning to me with a questioning glance. I bit my lip, my toes digging into the ground. In a moment, I could dig out a magical castle. Though I didn't know why my virtual boyfriend turned out to be Rocky, it was obvious that I had made a mistake. Thinking back on the month I shamelessly flirted with him, I felt that what was once a bright and hopeful graduate life had turned utterly bleak in an instant. Maybe I should drop out. No, I worked so hard to get in. I'm reluctant to give up. I looked up at Rocky, torn between my thoughts. Senior brother. I struggled to speak. I made a mistake. I mistook you for someone else. Rocky, standing opposite me, looked a bit stern. Mistook me for someone else? Who did you mistake me for? The virtual boyfriend I rented was only for 2 months due to financial constraints. How could I admit that? I lowered my head and stayed silent. Rocky seemed really angry, sneering as he walked forward with big strides. I hurried to catch up. Senior brother Rocky, this was really my mistake. Tell me how I can make it up to you, otherwise. Rocky stopped. Otherwise what? I glanced around. The sports field was crowded, but most were couples on dates, so no one was paying attention to us. I slightly turned to the side and whispered, how about we find a private place? Rocky looked surprised, his ears turning red. That's not appropriate. Find a private place, and I'll apologize to you. Rocky paused, then turned and walked away, leaving me alone, flustered in the wind. It's over. Senior brother Rocky seems even angrier. The first thing I did when I got back to my dorm was to check the Tabo order history for my virtual boyfriend. To my dismay, I found out that the shop had gone out of business shortly after I placed the order. With trembling hands, I searched online again. I found plenty of warning posts. Folks, avoid this store. It's a scam. They won't deliver after you place an order. The comments seemed to be mocking me. So funny, a virtual boyfriend, who would believe that? This can only fool the biggest idiot, right? I felt like 1,000 alpacas were running through my mind. I went back to the chat with Rocky and reviewed our conversation from start to finish. I concluded that I was deeply in the wrong and deserved to be punished. How could I have said such filthy things to this high and mighty person every day? At 1 a.m., I was still editing my apology letter to senior brother. At 2 a.m., I clicked send. A long message, but to sum up, it was that I would never reveal this past to damage senior brother's reputation, and if he ever needed anything from me in the future, I would do it at any cost. After sending it, there was no response for a long time. I sighed, thinking he must be asleep. Then I won't disturb you, senior brother. Have a good rest. I carefully typed this message. At the moment I sent it, a little red dot appeared on the screen. Message sent, but was rejected by the recipient. I sat up in shock. I read that line over and over before accepting the reality. I had been blocked by Rocky. I lay flat on the bed. As soon as I closed my eyes, I automatically equated my virtual boyfriend with Rocky, thinking about the month-long romantic exchange and how he even helped me with problems and comforted me to sleep. I couldn't help but pound the bed in frustration. The next afternoon, I carried my laptop to the group meeting. My advisor was startled by my panda eyes. Haley, did you not sleep last night? I nodded. Encountered an ultimate problem. My advisor chuckled. You're quite studious. Next time you face a problem, you can ask senior brothers and sisters for help. Yes, I spent the whole night online trying to figure out how to appease senior brother Rocky. After the meeting ended, I eagerly rushed to the boys' dormitory. Rocky had blocked me, so I had to wait downstairs. I thought about it all night and decided I needed to explain in person. Maybe, just maybe, if he still didn't hate me, I could strike while the iron was hot. After all, I really liked him. Just through the screen, he could make me swoon. When I discovered Rocky was my virtual boyfriend, besides panic, I felt a small relief. It was like a dream that might now become a reality. If Rocky and I ended up together in real life, I'd be content. I had the ambition and the courage. I dashed to the dormitory entrance. I waited, and even when mealtime came, he didn't show up. Instead, another senior brother came down, wearing slippers and a messy hairstyle. Looking for Rocky? He's not at school. He left early this morning to attend a lecture at B University for the professor. Gone again. I suddenly felt a wave of disappointment. It seemed he was truly angry. Not seeing him, I dejectedly returned to my dorm. Just as I put down my laptop, a new message came in. It was from Rocky. He had removed me from the blacklist. Senior sister Sushin said he saw you downstairs. Did you need something from me? I'm not at school these days. I'll return next week. What do you need? We can discuss it online. If it's inconvenient, we can talk when I return in a few days. Thank goodness, Rocky was still willing to communicate. I was carefully editing what I wanted to say in my notes app when Rocky probably waited a long time. A while later, he sent another message. I glanced at it distractedly. Why aren't you replying? Haley, don't play games with me. I need you to clarify our relationship. Whether it's a misunderstanding or an excuse, I need a definite answer. I don't want any ambiguity with a fellow junior sister. Damn, I could almost picture him frowning while typing. It must be so attractive. My fingers acted faster than my brain. Senior brother, do you want to date me? There was a long pause. The typing indicator continued. I reacted quickly, not having time to think too much. A voice in my head was shouting urgently. Why not just take the plunge? What if there's a treasure in the broken pot? I typed quickly. I've thought about it a lot. Although the past 2 months were a misunderstanding, my feelings for you are real. I don't want any ambiguity between us. So will you date me? The typing indicator on the other end stopped. Then, a voice call came through. I almost dropped my phone in shock. After taking a deep breath, I answered the call and looked at my flushed face in the mirror. Haley. Rocky called my name. I responded softly. Are you serious? Rocky's voice was the same as the virtual boyfriend who once captivated me, making my response more resolute. Yes, I'm serious. He paused, and I heard a very soft laugh. All right, understood. I'll be back the day after tomorrow. Haley, I look forward to your performance. Originally, Rocky was supposed to return the day after tomorrow, but he came back the next evening. He sent me a message. Are you free tomorrow morning? I clutched my phone, feeling a bit excited. Is he asking me out? Wasn't it agreed that I would pursue him? Yes, I'm free. Great. Since you're free, let's go to the library at 8:30 tomorrow morning. The teacher said there are some parts of the paper I published last year that you didn't quite understand. I'll explain them to you systematically. I stared at the message in silence. My excited heart was suddenly cooled. Is this what a math department genius is like? Terrifyingly serious. After a polite reply, I quickly reviewed his paper again. I hoped I wouldn't be foolish enough to embarrass myself in front of him tomorrow. The next morning, I got up at 7 a.m., changed outfits several times, and finally found one I was happy with. I even applied a no-makeup look. I hoped that when Rocky looked at me, he'd notice my alluring lashes. When I arrived downstairs and saw his tall, thin figure waiting for me by the roadside, I was so nervous I could barely speak. Rocky saw me too, and his gaze lingered for a few seconds. Have you eaten? Not yet. Let's go. I'll take you to eat. He was as formal as an old cadre. After eating, we went straight to the library. There weren't many people there, and we sat in a corner. He opened his laptop and got straight to the point. Did you understand my paper? Most of it. All right, point out what you didn't understand, and I'll explain it to you. Then I was subjected to 2 hours of intense knowledge transfer. Just as I was about to muster the courage to ask Rocky to lunch, my phone suddenly buzzed with several new messages. Peter, junior sister, have you come to the lab? I have some tasks today. Could you run some data for me? I frowned. Peter often asked me to help him, whether it was running data or formatting papers. He was my senior from last year, and he called it training my research skills, so it was hard to refuse. Senior brother, I'm not at the lab right now. No worries, you can come over now. I'll treat you to milk tea. This senior's persistence was quite thick-skinned. Rocky had just finished explaining everything, and he was now reading other papers while I felt awkward just sitting there. Senior brother, I have something urgent now, so I might need to leave. Rocky looked up. You're leaving now? Yes, it's quite urgent. Senior brother, I'll treat you to lunch another time. What I didn't know was that shortly after I left, Rocky closed his laptop. He lowered his eyelashes and tapped on his phone a few times. Soon, a call came in. Hello, Mr. Rocky, would you like to cancel the reservation for the table for 2 at the restaurant for lunchtime today? Cancel it, please. Until 2 in the afternoon, I was exhausted from the lab. As soon as I came out, I bumped into Rocky, who was coming from the other end of the hallway. I was stunned, and he clearly didn't expect to see me here either. He looked at the lab, then at me. You meant coming here when you said you had something to do this morning? Rocky didn't remember professors assigning heavy tasks to first-year graduate students, especially when their research direction wasn't yet settled. As I was about to speak, Peter happened to come out of the elevator. Senior Rocky, he said with a grin. What a coincidence, coming to the lab. Seeing me, Peter handed me a cup of lemon water from Mishue Bingchang. Junior sister, you've worked hard. Have a drink from senior brother. I felt awkward holding the cup of lemon water. Rocky kept staring at me, so I explained. Senior Peter asked me to help with some data work. Rocky was silent for a few seconds, then suddenly said, "You should thank him." I was puzzled. Huh? Peter looked confused too. Rocky continued, "You've just started, and Senior Peter is willing to co-author papers with you. Given your workload, getting a third author spot is no problem, and a second author isn't something to stress about." Peter hurriedly said, "Senior brother, is junior sister done?" Rocky interrupted, walking straight to me. "Perfect. You can help me with something." Was he defending me? I blinked and followed him. Once downstairs, he couldn't help but ask, "Does he often make you run errands?" I silently agreed. Rocky frowned slightly. "Haley, where's that cleverness from our previous chat? That's different," I mumbled. "Different how?" "I like you, so I'm willing to put in the effort." "I don't like him." Rocky's breath hitched, and he fell silent. I looked up at him and saw his face turned away, red ears and all. Rocky was quite innocent. I stifled a laugh and reached out to tug his sleeve. "Senior brother, I won't be a pushover anymore. With what you said today, Senior Peter probably won't ask me to do anything for him again. I'm a bit hungry. Do you know any good places to eat near the school?" Rocky cleared his throat. "Haven't eaten yet?" "No, starving." I was genuinely hungry. I had breakfast early, and now it was 2 in the afternoon. My stomach was quite uncomfortable. "Let's go." Rocky grabbed my wrist. "I'll take you to eat." Since Peter stopped making me run errands, I had more free time. But there was still no substantial progress with Rocky. Our daily routine was to go to the library, then eat together, and then, nothing more. It was so boring that even facing Rocky's handsome face, I had lost the enthusiasm for makeup. I lay on the table opposite Rocky, looking disheartened. "Senior brother, I don't want to study anymore." "What do you want to learn then?" Rocky, wearing half-rimmed glasses, looked away from his computer. "Postures?" I immediately thought of the banter we had online before. "I don't want to study. I want to learn postures with you." I instinctively avoided his gaze, but thinking about Rocky's personality, I felt he might be a bit embarrassed himself. His ears were already red. I couldn't help but smile. Following the principle of the stronger enemy, the weaker I am, I directly met his gaze. "Will you teach me, senior brother?" Our eyes locked, and the atmosphere suddenly became a bit ambiguous. Rocky looked away first. He lowered his voice. "Let's talk about it later." TSK, so pretentious. I was intrigued. "Senior brother, do you know what class I like the most?" "What class?" "Every moment spent with you." Rocky was stunned for a moment, then couldn't help but laugh softly. He seemed to be in a good mood. I used to wonder who liked cheesy lines, but now I understood. It was someone like Rocky, a serious person. Today's study session ended early. Rocky, unusually, didn't ask me to go back to rest early. After some hesitation, he asked, "Want to go out for a walk?" Just a simple walk. There's a pedestrian street outside our school, good for strolling with many stalls selling various things. We went out around 8 in the evening. This street is near the university town. Many students from nearby who had just finished dinner come here to wander around. It's all great here, and there are handsome guys around. If I hadn't run into Tony here, I would have had a great night. Tony was a classmate and my arch nemesis. Back in college, he used underhanded methods to squeeze me out of a scholarship, then spread rumors about me after I rejected his advances. He's the person I dislike the most, no exceptions. Tony's graduate school is also nearby. It wasn't awkward running into him, but it was awkward because I didn't see him and was still uttering cheesy lines. "Senior brother, I slept badly last night." "What happened?" "The blanket was too light. It couldn't hold down my thoughts of you." "Rocky." A chuckle came from behind. I turned around and saw Tony with a girl standing behind me. "Haley, long time no see." He pretended to be casual, smiling at me. "Still into cheesy lines, I see." I looked at him expressionlessly and instinctively grabbed Rocky to leave. I really didn't want to see him, but he seemed to notice Rocky beside me, looked surprised, and then said, "Senior Rocky." His girlfriend recognized Rocky. "We met at the academic conference in Pingchang at the beginning of last year. Do you remember?" Rocky replied indifferently, "Not really." The girl didn't mind. "I remember, Senior Rocky. Your report at the conference was impressive." Tony's face changed, clearly displeased. "Haley, is this your boyfriend?" "This is my senior." Before I finished, Tony interrupted, "Oh, I see. So you're pursuing him?" Tony's words were full of malice. You should give up early. With your cheesy lines, he probably won't like you. Haley, you're so hilarious. Which guy likes this kind of stuff? I was frozen, feeling embarrassed with people looking at us. Tony didn't care about my reaction and dragged his girlfriend away, but Rocky blocked their way. Who am I interested in or like is not for you to say. It was the first time I saw Rocky with a dark face. He was taller than Tony, exuding a strong aura. Apologize. Tony was stunned. What's the big deal? Bro, don't take it too seriously. It's just a joke. Apologize. Rocky repeated. The atmosphere grew tense. A girl nearby eating barbecue couldn't hold back. Your mouth is so foul. Can't you see the girl is unhappy?
Yeah.
Even jokes should be funny to others. Even his girlfriend looked displeased. You should apologize. Your words made me uncomfortable. With everyone speaking out, Tony's face darkened, feeling embarrassed in front of his girlfriend. Fine, sorry. He swatted Rocky's hand away and was about to leave when I grabbed him. He looked surprised. I don't accept your apology. I looked at the girl beside him. This person spread rumors about me in college after I rejected his advances. He made me a target. Please see his true character. The girl frowned at Tony and walked away. Haley, are you crazy? What nonsense are you saying? He reached to push me, but before he could, someone pushed his hand away. Rocky stood in front of me, kicking Tony. To be honest, I've never fought with anyone, but you're so asking for it that I couldn't help it. Tony almost fell, then stumbled back several steps, looking more wary of Rocky. He was the type to bully the weak and fear the strong. I can't be bothered with you. Don't leave if you have the guts. He looked around and hurriedly ran off in one direction. Baby, wait for me. When I came to, Rocky's hand was still holding mine. I could almost hear the intense beating of my own heart. Rocky continued to pull me forward. We quickly reached the end of the pedestrian street, having lost our enthusiasm for walking. He broke the silence first. I do like you, and I'm interested. I realized he was responding to Tony's taunts about him not liking me. Looking up at him, I felt a mix of joy and sudden sadness. Rocky. I called him by his name, not a senior brother. I'm not very good with words or knowing how to interact with someone I like. I say these cheesy lines to make you smile more. I'm afraid you might think I'm dull and uninteresting. Rocky looked down at me, his lips curling into a slight smile. Haven't you noticed? I'm also a bit dull and uninteresting, because I can't find an excuse to see you every day. I've planned dinners to take you to, but hesitated to ask. Haley, I've never been in a relationship and am quite clueless in this regard. I'm learning too, learning how to make our time together more comfortable. I stayed silent, gazing at him, but one thing I'm certain of is that I like you too and want to be with you. Was this a confession? Even though I was supposed to be pursuing him, I hadn't really taken any significant action. But now that the moment was here, I blushed and tentatively asked, so, what are we now? What do you think, Haley? His familiar tone made me feel like a tease. Senior brother, I gently squeezed his hand. Does this mean I've won you over? Rocky smiled. Congratulations. Congratulations to you too. When we got back to the dorm building, I had completely forgotten about the unpleasant encounter on the street. My mind was buzzing with, I'm officially off the market. And with a handsome genius boyfriend to boot. And he's a real person. A real person. Someone I can actually touch. Feeling proud, I said without thinking, aren't you going to invite me up? The graduate dorms are nice, with single rooms and no curfew. Rocky was taken aback. He hesitated. Haley, I'd rather we take things slow. My face turned red. I was just asking casually. It's you who misunderstood. Rocky replied, sorry, I misunderstood. I was even more frustrated. Go rest early. I'm leaving. The math and science graduate dorms face each other. I said this and immediately turned to run. I climbed up the 6-story dorm quickly and was so excited that I didn't fall asleep until 2 a.m. Thus, my campus romance with Rocky officially began. Like any ordinary couple, we would have meals together, study together, and stroll by the artificial lake. And I couldn't quit those addictive cheesy lines. Fortunately, Rocky had completely accepted my quirky hobby. He even played along with my cheesy lines. For example, now, do you know the 2 most wonderful things in the world? Not sure. I typed with a smile, sleeping and thinking of you. Rocky responded with a surprising line. So, do you want to sleep with me? I played along. So, can we? Next week. I was momentarily stunned, but before I could react, the phone rang. Hello? Rocky's voice was cheerful. I'll be going for an internship next week. Oh, I felt a bit disappointed. So you won't be at school starting next week? I've rented a place near the company. I can come see you on weekends. Haley's beautiful campus romance ended abruptly 2 months later. Then began the tantalizing, long-distance relationship, several dozen kilometers apart. The first weekend after Rocky started his internship, I went to visit him. When I knocked on his apartment door, he looked visibly surprised. Why so surprised? Did you hide someone in the apartment? I squinted at him. Rocky shook his head with a smile. Even in plain pajamas, he looked impeccable. I nimbly slipped inside. I don't believe it. I'm checking. Rocky's apartment was small, but very clean. No trash or smelly socks, and no odors. Clear and fresh, just like him. Why did you come suddenly? He asked. I felt sorry for how hard you're working. I flopped on the sofa, propping my head up to look at him. So I came to check on my boyfriend. Rocky came over, bent down, and kissed me on the lips. Not here for a surprise inspection? I raised an eyebrow. Just a bonus. It had been almost 2 weeks since we last saw each other. To say I missed him would be an understatement. As we were very close, our breaths mingled, and the once fresh air seemed to become sticky. Rocky knelt on the sofa, holding me in his arms. Our gazes locked, and in the next moment, he kissed me. His movements were fiercer than usual. His hand on my waist grew increasingly warm. Absence makes the heart grow fonder was so true. During our brief separation, Rocky whispered in my ear, "Did you bring clean clothes?" I tightened my grip on his clothes and nodded, trembling. As adults in our 20s, some things were understood without words. I wrapped my arms around his neck, closing the distance once more. I tilted my head slightly, planting a kiss on his lips. This kiss seemed to open a floodgate, leading to an unstoppable wave. "Let's go to the bedroom." I managed to pull away just enough to say this. Rocky held me, and I clung to him. We knocked over a trash can and kicked over a chair. The moment we entered the bedroom, Rocky closed the door, cutting off the room's romantic ambience. "So, can we?" "Next week." Rocky is a man of his word. And it turns out, a genius is indeed a genius, even in certain aspects, naturally talented. Just a bit of a strain on me. The end. If you like Puppy's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.